our very first date. You packed the water 'cause I couldn't carry the weight. And into the ashes you carved out a heart with our names. I can still picture your smile through the mask on your face. And we keep dancing through siren sound. They drown the crying out, but there's nothing to cry about, 'cause there's no one that I'd rather watch the world end with.
Hi, welcome to a week of knitting. So in the winter I did a little week, couple days in my life knitting vlog, and as we are now in the summer I thought it might be fun to do that. I enjoy looking back on these videos. These are the type of videos I like putting on in the background just to keep myself company when I'm working or cleaning around the house. So hopefully you also enjoy it. So this morning started off with kind of our usual routine, which is getting up, I get the kiddo breakfast, I get myself a cup of coffee and something to eat, and then while she's eating breakfast and kind of having some wake up time, I can sit down with my cup of coffee and my knitting and get a couple of rows in. Sometimes it's only a couple stitches, sometimes it's a couple of rows. We did have an interruption for some delivery of some yard stuff. I will acknowledge I had started to do this whole backyard series and then quickly abandoned it because it just got so hot, and also most of the stuff that I was doing, especially the first few days, was just pulling weeds, and I figured people didn't want to just watch me pull weeds for a week. But we have kind of figured out the rest of the plans for the backyard, made a big order to get some sand and rocks. We're going to put a nice little pond in, a little mini pond, with a little water feature thing, so we've got that moving water. And yes, most of that is arriving this week, so might be having a few evenings where I'm out doing that, and then when I need a break, come in and do some knitting. So let's talk about what I've been working on this morning. So I have just actually started the ribbing on the Esther Sweater Junior that I'm making for my daughter. So yeah, while I was sitting, we went outside in the backyard for a little bit of backyard time before it got way too hot, and I was able to actually switch needles and get about halfway around the front on the first row of ribbing. So I'm going to keep working on this. I think I may actually, once I'm done with the ribbing, cast on the Mountain Laurel top. I do have the gauge swatch right here, sitting under the camera. So there you go. There's the gauge swatch, and I seem to be pretty much on gauge. I think my row gauge is ever so slightly off, but I also think that this is going to, the acrylic yarn is going to stretch a little bit more, just with the weight of the garment, not a ton. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and use the needle sizes recommended, since I got pretty much the gauge. I seem to have the stitch gauge, but the row gauge is ever so slightly off, so that should be easier to, if I get to the end, just add on a couple of extra rows if I feel like it needs it. And then I'm also hoping to continue working on the Sweet Shop blanket for my daughter. The Esther sweater is kind of I've set the Sweet Shop blanket down a little bit. I've gotten a couple of purple squares done, but I would like to try and get a couple of squares a week just so that I kind of keep on track with hopefully having it done in August before her school year starts up. So yes, come along with me for a week-ish, a few days, we'll see how long, of knitting.
We used to joke about how we thought this would go down.
You want to go back to sleep?
Super volcanoes and meteors out of the clouds. We always knew it would end in a nuclear shroud. And we could say we told you so, but what good is that now? And I try to keep on the sunny side, but the sun's burning me alive. Guess there's nowhere better to die, 'cause there's no one that I'd rather watch the world end with. And there's no one that I'd rather watch the world end with.
Oh, it is day 2. It is Tuesday. So the rest of Monday was a little bit of a difficult day. Kiddo seemed to be having some like big feelings, which, you know, happens. And it's just sometimes difficult to deal with. And then, oh, hi Ripley. And then I had this like really bad pain all the way down my arm, just from tension, because after she went to bed, I took a bath and like put some Epsom salts in it, and just the heat and those really made a big difference. So I was able to finish up the ribbing on the bottom of the Esther sweater, and I have just recently started doing the Italian bind off. So I'm like almost halfway there. Certainly goes a lot faster than full adult sizes. And then this morning we went to a coffee shop so I could sit down and work a little bit, and kind of reached a point where I was like, okay, I'm waiting to hear back from people on a handful of things, and didn't really want to get started on any major project because we were also going to the library for some story time. So I cast on, it doesn't look like much. Oh, that's actually, is that the wrong side? That's the wrong side. I cast on the Mountain Laurel top. So this is a pattern by Andrea Gaughan. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Somebody corrected me on a previous video. And it is being knit up in Knit Picks Comfy Sport Weight. So looking forward to getting that done. Yeah, I cast that on because I thought I hadn't brought a pair of scissors with me to be able to like do the bind off on the Esther sweater, but I did. I just didn't look in the right pocket. So yeah, we're enjoying another day. The dogs are wondering what I'm doing sitting on the floor and want attention. Kiddo's having some quiet time right now, and then I think we're heading to the park. So probably some opportunity for some more knitting while we're at the park. Maybe I'll bring my sock to finish that up. And yes, just trying to enjoy. We've got a couple of cooler days before it gets back to being ungodly hot. So trying to enjoy those cool days. All right, let's dive in.
small talk. But do you mind if I sit down? Indiana was a long shot, and I could use another round. I don't mean to be too bold. No, it's not at all like me. But when you're making your way home,
Does anybody want to be in the vlog and say hi?
Sure.
Like Jenny McJenny.
Sleeping on my own.
You want to show off what you're working on?
Sunflower.
It's so pretty!
I've such a long way to go, and you remind me of somebody I know. Can I stay with you a while?
This has felt like a season of knitting. With my kiddo home for the summer, I've just had a lot more opportunities to bring my knitting with me, to be knitting at the park or the playground, in our backyard, when we go to the library, not pictured here because I didn't want to film other people's kids, or even just at home. She's at an age where we've started having like parallel play where she'll be playing and I'll be sitting there knitting and we'll chat a little bit, or I'll play here and there, or sometimes I'll just sit and knit and watch her. I've also had much more time for knitting as I'm currently unemployed. Knitting has definitely been stress relief for me. If you are in a similar situation of searching for jobs, oh boy, I feel you. It is rough. And so I feel like knitting has been a great thing for times where I either don't have really the spoons to do much, or I don't have the fucks. This is a new concept that I recently heard. I'd already been familiar with the idea of spoons, that everything takes energy, and so you kind of each day only have a certain amount of spoons. But this new thing is also having fucks to give. Which is the idea of like, well, spoons is the energy, but then the fucks to give is the motivation. And there are some days where you have both, and some days where you might have only one, and some days where you have neither. And I feel like knitting is something that I can do when I have both. I can do when I have one, or I can even do when I have neither, because it is this like kind of active rest for me. And it still gives me something that at the end of the day I can look at and see progress. Also, it fulfills this need to just start over if I really need to. I've had this growing urge to just delete my email and start everything fresh. Logistically, could not do that. But I will say, during this week, I was struggling with trying to figure out the heel of this one sock pattern, and I just was not working. And I finally just unraveled the whole thing, wound it up into a ball, and started on a new sock pattern. And that felt so nice to just wipe everything clean and start fresh. So if you're in a similar situation where you're feeling like that in somewhere else in your life, maybe try going and actually frogging that project you keep meaning to, and because that certainly made me feel a lot better. Yes, there has been a lot more focus on parenting this summer, just as I've had much more time, and I've been trying to enjoy and be present with my kid and not let the looming stress of employment stuff hang over me too much. So it was really nice to spend the week relaxing and knitting. I got to end the weekend at the Virginia Living Museum, watching my kiddo play and exploring with her and knitting, and then sneaking in a little bit of knitting time with a surprise car nap that luckily did not throw off bedtime routine.
once had a dream. I was standing upon a hill. Oh, I had a dream of you and I. We stood by the sea, rolling and powerful. I took the deepest breath. I was alive. Oh, true love of mine, I can no longer live. The calling of the wild, the calling of the wild within. Oh, true love, you are my every desire.
I hope you really enjoyed watching this video and coming along with me for this week in a knitting vlog. I managed to, finish the body of that sweater for her. I got started on a shirt for myself. I made some progress on the Sweet Shop blanket, and I finished off one sock and started another. So it felt like a really productive knitting week. I hope you've been having a great week. Whenever you're watching this, whether it's summers, fall, winter, spring. And I'd love to know what you were working on, if you were working on something while you were watching. A big thanks to all of our patrons. If you enjoyed this video, stick around here because I make videos about my knitting hobby and other related things. And you can also head on over to Patreon to directly support the channel and get some cool perks. All right. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.